to the 2020 Empowerment Conference. Hello from the exec team.
My name is Josh Foster, co-founder and CEO.
And I'm Sherron Pearson, co-founder and CTO.
And my name is Marquita Amwa, the editor-in-chief. We're excited to share this dynamic panel with you today.
Please feel free to take notes and join us in the live breakout room to debrief after the panel concludes. Thank you everyone for joining us. We want to welcome you all to the EmpowerMint 2020 conference. We're looking forward to this panel discussion we have here. This discussion we have is in our leadership track, and we're going to dive into it. I'm Joshua Foster, a co-founder and CEO of Mint.
And my name is Sherron Pearson, and I'm also the co-founder and CTO of Mint.
And yeah, so without further ado, we want to dive in. Let's go through some brief introductions. Liz.
Yeah, so I'm Liz Wright. I am the founder of Wanderlust Travels, which is a female-based travel group organizing and creating travel opportunities for our women-based, female-based following. I also have a couple of additional projects that I'm working on outside of Wanderlust. One being one of the founders of a newly established group called the Yajama Collab. We're focused on empowering Black entrepreneurs to be able to access or gain access to funding for their businesses. I'm also working now as the leader of diversity and inclusion for a healthcare startup, a Los Angeles-based healthcare startup that I'm working with as well.
That's great. Thank you, Liz. And Tyrone, can you feel free to give us a little information about what you do right now?
Definitely. Hi, everybody. My name is Tyrone Jacob Jr. I currently work as a components engineer at Boeing, soon to be at Northrop Grumman, working as a commodity engineer. And what that is those type of engineers, we work on space and satellite hardware. So any type of small components that are used to manufacture and design a lot of our space and satellite systems that go into the sky or space. That's what we work on. Like we have to qualify them, make sure they're tested correctly, make sure they can survive a life cycle in space, et cetera. And it's a really, really cool job, really great career that I have. And then outside of that, I speak as well to little kids, middle schoolers, high schoolers, college students about just different things that I've learned in my educational journey thus far and how to set myself up for success and how I was able to accomplish different things and just to let people know that they also can do those same things and accomplish those same goals. And then outside of my engineering career and speaking, I'm just building a brand. A lot of it is currently being built on LinkedIn, but I use all social media to build my brand and to further my cause and my mission of just trying to inspire people, let people know they can accomplish their goals and their dreams, really, basically. So.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you both for sharing that. And yeah, we want to dive right in. I think a big portion of learning about people's journey and learning about what they do is kind of seeing where the roots come from. So the first question that we have is basically trying to figure out what your lead or origin story is. So where did the roots of your leadership begin? Whichever one of you want to take that.
I can go. Yeah, I can go. I would say for me, it started when I got to college. I want to say maybe my second semester. I joined an organization called the National Society of Black Engineers. And some of you may have heard of it, some of you may have not. But it's a student-run organization. It's about 16 to 20,000 members strong. It's been around since 1975. And it was created by six Black engineering students at Purdue University that were having some struggles and adversities going through the engineering curriculum. So they all banded together to create it started as a study hall, and then it went into an organization, and then now it's a nationwide society. But the goal of it is to help engineering students, graduate. And our goal is to graduate 10,000 engineers annually by 2025. that are African American or, from other minority groups. And I would say for me, it was definitely Nesby. That's where I got my first exposure of like, okay, this is what a leader looks like. This is what a Black leader looks like. Like these are people that are wearing all these really nice suits and they got their briefcases and stuff. And like, I want to be a part of that. I want to look like that. I want to see how I can contribute to something like that. And that was in 2012, 2013. And I've been a part of it, ever since. So I think for me, that was definitely my roots of just leadership and learning about it, what it looks like.
Awesome. What about you, Liz?
So this is the first time I've ever answered a question like this. So I might, fumble through it, but I would say that my roots are really grounded in my family. My grandfather on my maternal side, he was an entrepreneur, definitely did a lot of exploring different industries. So explored the insurance world, explored some of the automobile industry, and then settled on the security and guard services. So he started a security company that also did monitoring services for your alarm that would be installed in your house. Mm-hmm. So that was traditional mom and pop business. We all worked in that business. Every other week we were at the house helping out with payroll, helping out with accounting, helping printing the checks. And got to see him build that business from the ground up, and he made it all the way to be able to enter into an IPO for the company. And so I would say that's definitely grounded in that. Same even for my grandmother on that side. She was really a trendsetter. She was a nurse, worked in all white settings and was able to be one of the first Black charge nurses for the floor that she worked on. And so I definitely would contribute my foundation to my family for sure.
That's awesome.
Well, family is certainly important, and our first teachers, essentially.
Yeah.
So that 100% makes sense. And in that same vein, we have this understanding that leadership, it has a foundation in our unique life experiences, right? So Tyrone, specifically, how have you leveraged your drive as an engineer and within that career itself to amplify your reach as a leader?
That's a great question. I would say for me, because engineering, just going through undergrad was just enough. Honestly, there's a lot of hard exams, hard equations, hard math problems, just a lot of hard classes, a lot of hard labs that I had to kind of get through and learn, and it wasn't easy. I've always been interested in math, and I think math is my favorite subject. It's always been the one I've been the most interested in. But then once I became a junior, that's when I started to take more of my engineering coursework. And at first, initially, it was like a huge, punch in the face because I didn't know what I was really walking into until I started to, take the classes. And they were hard. I won't lie about it or try to put a front on it. They were very difficult classes, but I made it through. And I think by me fighting as hard as I did to get through those classes and to do my best and to learn and to, retake a class if I had to graduate on time and all these different things. I think all of those experiences and lessons kind of taught me to just keep fighting for what I want and to keep fighting for the goals and the dreams that I have for myself. So I would say all of that has leveraged me to, want to inspire, other people and just show them that, hey, you can look like this, or you can dress like this, or talk this way, or walk this way. That doesn't mean that you can't get to your aspirations and your dreams and your goals, because I did. And I didn't have the best, I guess, experience, growing up in my childhood and things like that. So to be able to have those experiences I had early on and to kind of create something out of nothing really is just awesome. And then I just want to prove to other people that they can do that same thing. So
that's great.
Just to piggyback on, I just had one quick question on what you said, Tyrone. So you mentioned that, it was a slap in the face once you started some of your engineering coursework. What led you to decide, hey, I want to be an engineer? This is for me. Because in the Black community specifically, it's not as highlighted as a potential career path, right? So what made you go, this is what I want to do next?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it's one I get a lot actually. So my engineering journey basically started when my mom had a brochure for this technical academy, and I knew nothing about it. So she was like, "Hey, how about you just go here and check it out?" It was her and my uncle, and they said, "Hey, we should send him here for high school." So I went. It was a bunch of super nerdy kids. It was like less than like 200 students. Like the whole student body was like 200 students strong or so. And we all were taking engineering coursework. So we were doing your traditional math, social studies, English, and literature and all that. And we also were doing mechanical engineering classes, pneumatics and hydraulic classes. We were taking mechanical engineering coursework as freshmen in high school. So I think just by taking those courses, and then also meeting my teacher, my junior year, I had for a class, it was digital electronics, and it was a fundamental electrical engineering course. I took that class, and then I was working with him, and he's like, "Man, like you're doing a really good job. Like you're understanding, what's going on." And I think from there, that fostered my ambition to say to myself, "You know what? Like, you might be able to do this engineering thing." Because I was unsure at first. I didn't really know. Nobody in my family was engineers. I didn't know any engineers. I knew nothing about STEMs, none of this stuff, NSBE. So I think it was just that moment where I was like, you should try it out. And then I went for it, and then it worked. So that's kind of my story behind that.
Yeah, and to that point, like, also like, big ups to you as well. So, because I was a biology major in undergrad, and, I learned senior year that a lot of the classes at the beginning, sophomore year especially, are to weed people out. And so the fact that you had, that endurance to like stick with it, even though the coursework was hard, says a lot. And
It
that's
was a lot of endurance.
Right. I know, a lot of giving up on the fun stuff. So I feel
Yeah.
like, that message that you have, should be shared with younger not entrepreneurs, younger engineers, like as you're doing, because they need to know that, like, no, it's not me. It's not that I'm not getting the content and it's a me problem. This is the way that it's set up. And I've got people backing me and supporting me to push through on that.
Definitely.
That's a really good point.
Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah, Liz, I feel like that's a really good point, because as you start to get into these spaces where not everyone that looks like you are in, it's really important to highlight that journeys could be very similar, so that people can start to see that it's possible. And leading that into a similar question for you, how have you been able to leverage your experiences as a global traveling professional, and then also as a Black woman business owner, to be able to amplify leadership impact?
Yeah, so I'm just going to speak really candidly. So like growing up, it was really important to my family that we had all the tools that we needed in order to be successful. So they did their best to like try to pick the best schools, the best neighborhoods, everything to that extent. So I ended up going to an all-white girls private school, like pre-K through 8th grade. And then I transitioned to a public school, and, like going to that public school and wanting to try to like get along with the Black kids, and it didn't go very well. So they were definitely, like, oh, you talk white, or you think you're snobby, you think you're better than us. And so I would go back to my mom and my dad, and I'd be like, why did you do this to me? I'm so mad at you for sending me to this all white school. But, I understand now, being an adult, a lot of why that was. And I think like that foundation of like seeing my grandfather push through, rooms that weren't designed for him, seeing my grandmother do the same, and then even experiencing what I had to by, being the only Black kid at a school. And even that like translating into, my day job, that atmosphere today, it's really taught me to like seek for the best, if that's what you want. And, it might be a career path that is not common amongst people that look like you. It might be lonely because there's not a lot of people that look like you in that journey that don't give up on that. So I think that foundation of like seeing my grandfather push through, and it taught me how to do the same. So not just like limiting my thinking and what I have access to and what I go after, just because it's not something that's like popular with minorities. And so I didn't mention this in the introduction, but for people who are watching, in my day job, I do what they call like revenue cycle strategy for a healthcare company, which is basically like doing strategy around how any healthcare organization makes their money, from when the patient shows up at the front desk to the doctor seeing you and documenting what he did and sending that off to an insurance company. And so a lot of that whole journey has not been very diverse, and even where I work today has not been diverse. And you know, that adds like an extra layer onto already the rigorousness of that job. So yeah, I would say that would be what I take away from my upbringing, is, you know, pushing through for sure.
That's good. Yeah, I think a really big thing that ties both of what you're talking about is the rigor of what you do. And I think that's something that isn't stated and highlighted a lot. We live in a day and age a lot of times where everyone wants everything now, everything fast and easy, right. And delayed gratification and all of that isn't as sexy as the rigor of going through the fire to really forge what it is you're trying to do and what you're trying to lead for. And I think that's really important that you brought that up.
And I think that, you know, that also speaks to the value in going through and coming out on the other side of obstacles, right? Because what we see is something that, you know, is the end of the world. You know, you going to the predominantly white school, something that we see is something that hinders us. Once we do finally make it to the other side, we're that much more powerful, that much more unstoppable. And you can see it within your career now. You know, would you be as confident navigating these spaces had you not experienced, you know, your upbringing? Possibly, right? But the likelihood is that much higher because you've already developed those skills. And same for you, Tyrone.
Yeah, and it's like now, seeing what it took and knowing how uncomfortable it could get at times, like all of the focuses, it's like in every setting that I'm in, it's about, you know, making sure that those rooms are more inclusive. So like even in the travel space, I've been doing a lot of work with what they call a host agency. So it would be like a larger, more seasoned travel company that says, I'm going to take all these travel agents or travel advisors, as they like to be called today, under, you know, my wing, and pay all of their like licensing fees and give them all the resources they need to do the job. So one being that there aren't many Black owned, if at all, I don't know of any host agencies. I'm actually working with one that is minority owned, but you know, that the BLM movement, you know, brought a lot of focus on how outside of like the social media world, there's not a lot of focus on like Black travelers and making sure that when they go abroad, that is a safe space for them. So doing a lot of work with that host agency as well to build a diversity inclusion program to make sure that, you know, we can also like travel freely and feel comfortable doing that, and, you know, not have to worry about discriminatory, you know, terms and phrases being thrown at us. Not have to, there was an article this week that was in CNN that talked about, he was a Black traveler that went to, I won't say the hotel chain, but went to a major hotel chain hotel and was basically accosted by security and prevented from being able to go to their room because they thought that there was no way that that Black man could be staying there. So that's a lot of like the work that, you know, I'm doing in the travel space too. But yeah, I think it's great for people like us to have had those opportunities and then be leaders in creating, you know, creating safer spaces for people to come after us.
Way to be a leader. Right? And that's the whole idea of this track, is when you see a road that's not paved, it's like, do you stop or do you keep pushing? Do you create that lane for someone else to follow through? So commendable job for both of you, truthfully, because that's what we need more of, especially in communities of color. And thankfully, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement has been, you know, gaining momentum on social media, but translating that into, you know, the real world and integrating, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's an entirely different conversation, right? So thank you both on the individual work that you guys are doing. as leaders, right?
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's, these are tough and long journeys, no matter what you're doing. If you're trying to become an engineer or your own CEO and founder, or entrepreneur or business owner. I mean, a lot of these, different journeys and careers you can take. I mean, they're not going to be easy, but somebody has to do it. And why not you?
Yep.
That's a great, why not you? Right? Why not you? Simple and effective.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Josh?
Yeah, I said it's simple and it's powerful.
It is powerful. Yeah, because I think it's easy for a lot of us, and me included, to identify the problems, but you realize why the problems exist once you actually try to fix them. And, it's not as easy as we would have hoped it, would be. And I actually had a conversation with a business partner earlier, like right before this call. We were rushing through getting proposals together to go out, by end of day today. And we were like, whew, okay, we finally finished. And then, we kind of took a minute and we thought about like how we haven't necessarily thought through what we've signed up for and how that's going to impact our day-to-day and the amount of work that is to come. And, this is just the beginning. We're just putting together a proposal. We don't even know what's to come after, we get approved, because we're going to claim it in advance. But, it's just something that I think, you do want to think about with leadership. You want to think about like what you have to give up from a time standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, whatever, in order to, make that dream happen. But then it helps to think about how many people you're going to impact at the end of the day. And that hopefully kind of keeps you going.
Well said. Well said. So for the both of you, Liz and Tyrone, let's change gears a little bit, right? So let's pretend today is 30 years from now. And if you look back on the previous 3 decades, what type of legacy would you like to reflect on? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Man, yeah, it's gonna take me a little second to think. Liz, you can go if you got your
I did think about this a little bit before the call. So one, I want people to be like, she looked damn good doing it, for sure.
That's right.
So I would say that would be one of the legacies. And then I would say that I, of course, would want to like leave something behind to, my offspring, something that they can push even further, and really, for them to have that foundation and not have to start from scratch. So that would be, another, like there's a lot of memes that I've seen on social media right now that talk about how, when you are thinking about critiquing or criticizing even that Black business, just remember that more than likely that person started that business with their bare hands. They had no help, they had no funding. So just keep that in mind when you start comparing them to other brands. So with that being said, I want to make sure that in all of the lanes that I'm working in, whether it's my healthcare lane, whether it's the, business incubator, whether it's the travel piece, I really want to reserve funds that can continue to be invested in, up and coming small businesses. So I just want to make sure that, people that look like us know that they don't have to go this alone. And I want them to have more and more access to resources. And so like when you think about the travel world, for example, where you see a majority of Black travel professionals is in the influencer world, in the blogging world, which is great. That's, there's nothing wrong with that. But I also want, to create spaces to where people who are really passionate about travel can own planes, that they can, own hotel chains, and we can really get into that aspect of travel too. And so that legacy that I wanted to leave behind as I continue to grow and develop, my businesses, is I want to have that funding to open doors for people to come after me.
Love that. That's really good. That's a good picture painted of a legacy that you leave. And I think that it's big. It's very great to live in the moment, but it's also really good to know what you're striving for. And
right.
what about yourself, Tyrone?
All right. I would say for me overall, I would want my legacy to be just remembered as like he was a guy that like he helped people and that he gave and that he tried his best to put people in position to be successful. He was not someone that just achieved success or greatness and then it was just him by himself at the top or something like that. Because a lot of people out there that are like that now. He was somebody that didn't forget, other people or people that were less fortunate. He didn't forget, his upbringing, where he came from, and what he had to go through and endure to get to where he is now. He looked to help other people with what they were trying to do, and if it was something that he was doing, he made sure that he helped them out. Really, just somebody who just helped people and gave, and just whether it's financially, advice, wisdom, putting them in positions to make their own money, just whatever it is. Somebody that used their blessings and success to better the world. I think is probably the best way I can really put it in some words. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that because I really feel like our generation as millennials, we were selected to be these people to help push generations that come after us forward. And I really think that that's our calling, because when we were born and like when we, as we were coming up, the fact that we saw like the pre-internet world, the pre-cell phone world, and the, super tech world, I think that that's a true advantage. And it just gives us a perspective that people after us will never have. And so like you think a lot about a lot of the work that we're doing right now, and people say like, Rome wasn't built overnight. We're not going to see these changes and it's going to take 30 plus years, and maybe it will, who knows? But we have to be selfless in that sense of saying like, it's okay if we're, busting our balls to get this done right now. And we might not ever truly reap the benefits. So we're talking about like things like closing the wealth gaps. Well, that might not necessarily happen for all of us, but if we can make it better for people to come after us, then we've done our job for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. And I mean, as you said, like we may have to put in all the hard work now, and let's just say we may not see at the end what we're truly trying to see, but somebody after us will. And then somebody after us will grab the torch and they'll keep going. Somebody eventually after us will make that dream of ours a reality. I mean, Dr. MLK Jr. said the same, he said the same idea, we may, I may not get there with you, but somebody will make it. So it's that idea.
Yeah.
Great way to tie that in, Tyrone, and something that you make me think about how you said the idea is to help, right? And I think that's a strong quality of any leader who's successful. Is the goal is not to see where they can go, but it's to create an impact for the world. And I think that's a true quality of a leader. And the fact that both of you guys have that mindset, very humbling for us to be able to interview you both.
No, thank you.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, a big thing about leadership is service, and you guys definitely both encompass both those qualities very well. And I think it's a great way to be able to, as both of you put, to step into the next generation, the generations behind us, is by leading through a way of service. So that's something that can be carried on and hopefully can continue throughout generation to generation. And right now we have some time left. I want to throw a curveball question. It should be a fun one. If you could pick one person, alive or dead, to do one impactful thing with, who would it be and what would that be?
Oh man, that's tough.
It is. It's a tough one.
Give Tyrone some time. Liz, what's up?
It's a tough one, but it's supposed to be a quick fire.
Who came to my mind first, and I'm not sure I know why, but Prince. I definitely like people that are on the eccentric side. I like people that are not afraid to be themselves. And so to the level that he was not afraid to be himself, I just need to do something with them for sure. But, also for me, one thing that I've always really appreciated about Prince was that he didn't celebrate age. Like when he acknowledged birthdays or, another journey around the sun, he didn't talk about what age he turns. And someone with that mindset, to me, doesn't want to be limited, right? And I feel like one thing that, age does is we feel we kind of put boundaries around like what we can do and how much time we have to do it. And that time is just, as we all know, it's everybody's like perspective. It's just a construct of that is your own. And so for me, I would love to be around someone and accomplish something if time is nothing that they want to talk about. They feel like they have the rest of their lives, or they don't care if they don't have the rest of their lives. They just don't want to be limited in that sense, and they're comfortable being their full out selves. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Prince.
That's awesome.
What would you guys do?
Oh,
What would be the project?
I would want to do something with Prince that, okay, so one of the things that I think about a lot, so like you guys might have seen it in the news that like Barbados wants to give longer term visas to Americans so that they could basically move there and work there. And so like if you've ever been to Barbados, there's definitely a lot of opportunity for development. And so I would like want to do like a project like that with Prince, like to where we create like, you know, whatever it is that, you know, where all of these Americans, if we all like wanted to do a mass migration to Barbados and live there, like, and work with, you know, definitely being considerate of the country and make sure that whatever we're doing is sustainable for sure. But, you know, whatever like building these apartment units are, wherever, whatever we end up living in and what we would do from a day on a day-to-day basis, like I would want to do that with Prince.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I mean, hey, with or without, you should definitely think about doing that. You can play some Prince music in the background, and we can.
Is this true? Yeah.
I was thinking that. I said, I was thinking, girl, you need to find another Prince because that could still happen. Okay.
That's funny.
Right, he can speak to me through his music.
Yep.
You have a little picture in the back, but okay, you know. But, Tyrone, what do you think?
I think for me, my person would be Tupac, and it's because, yeah, I mean, we all know him as a rapper and a musician, but a lot of his music related to a lot of our struggles as minorities and people of color, a lot of the things that we have to kind of go through and endure. He made a lot of songs about that, and he recognized a lot of our problems and a lot of our issues, you know, as far as like, you know, poverty and not having money to do this and that. And he also had a spirit of activism and a spirit of wanting to help people and a spirit of wanting to brighten minds and inspire minds and to push somebody to become something. And I think I picked him just because of really all of those reasons, and just to see like, or just to think about like, if he were to be alive, what would he think about the Black Lives Matter movement that's on social media, or when we had Trayvon Martin and how that kind of started, and the Sandra Bland, and then we had, you know, the list goes on. Like, what would Tupac think about it? Because if you watch a lot of his interviews, a lot of his documentaries and stuff, I mean, he really had a heavy activist spirit, and that's, I mean, I think a lot of it plays a part too because of his mom. His mom was a Black Panther, so I think a lot of that came from that too. And I think as far as the project, I don't know, really, I would just say maybe just a tour where we would team up somehow and like go around nationwide and just, you know, speaking about different injustices and problems that our communities are facing, and we try to raise money and do food drives and things like that to help like the less fortunate, the homeless, the people out there that are really struggling. I think he would do something like that and would enjoy it, and I know I would too.
Love it. Tupac, Prince, I love the music. And,
Right.
yeah, you always get a lot from the musical mind, so I definitely am not surprised that we're leaning toward those. That's awesome.
Well, you both chose leaders in the music.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in the music,
Oh, yeah.
They were both leaders and trendsetters.
Yeah.
With minds, you know, way ahead of their times. So it just makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's another reason why I picked Tupac, because he was maybe 24 or 25 when he died or something like that. Like, you wouldn't have thought that he was that young, because the way he spoke, the way that he acted, his demeanor, his care, like, you wouldn't have thought that he was only, you know, mid 20s. So I mean, that's the part that's crazy about it.
You know, it's interesting too when you talk about like Tupac and his like perspective on activism at that age. Like, it's kind of what we talked about too. you know, a lot of what he spoke about, he didn't get to stick around to see that change,
Mhm.
but look what it's done, you know, for us. Like, we're here and, you know, they're role models for us.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it aligns with like what we were saying earlier too.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for fielding those curveballs there. There's some good answers. I like it. I'm looking forward to you two making those projects happen with their music playing in the background as the theme song. So,
Definitely.
but yeah, we really appreciate you both for taking your time out to be able to speak on your leadership, to speak on your journeys and what it is that you do. Before we close, we want to open up the space if you guys have any final thoughts, and if it's a final plug for something you may be doing, just anything like that at all, like the space to be able to continue to amplify your voices and your leadership.
Okay, I guess I can go ahead and start with my closeout. I mean, well, first and foremost, you know, thank you guys, thank the Mint team for reaching out to me, to find me on social media, LinkedIn, to be interested enough and to, you know, learn more about me, about my story, you know, bits and pieces about my journey, what's gotten me to where I am today. I definitely really appreciate this opportunity. I don't take it lightly. Definitely humbled and gratified by it. And I just wanted to say, like, I learned a lot, you know, just on this call, just about just different things, entrepreneurship, business, you know, what leadership looks like, what it can look like, you know, different things that we can do to come together and to help other people, and to inspire people. And I just hope that just from this call and this meeting that people really pull a lot from it and that they really can walk away and be like, you know what, like, I feel like I can do this now, or I can do that now, I can accomplish this, I can accomplish that. So I just want to say, you know, thank you guys, you know, once again, and I really hope in the future that we can team up again and do something, and just keep watch on me on LinkedIn, I guess.
Definitely.
So I'll piggyback on saying thank you for sure. I enjoyed it. I got to meet another fellow entrepreneur and leader in the community. So I appreciate always the opportunity to do that. From a travel perspective, you know, when the world is safer, I'm definitely going to be announcing some group trips to get people out there. More than likely, these are actually going to be co-ed. So just be on the lookout for that. And then, Josh, if you could share the Instagram profile after this, because that's where I'll be posting those. And then I also just want to reach out. One thing that I'm doing with the healthcare work. So healthcare is definitely an industry that is not going anywhere. It is very secure. I'm really pushing my company to prioritize recruiting Black professionals. So I've got a whole initiative going on there. So if you are anybody that has, like, you know, general project management experience, accounting, finance, definitely reach out and let me know, because I am looking to definitely diversify, you know, the groups that I work with at the company. And there's a lot of opportunities right now for recruiting.
Do you want to state the company's names?
Yeah, so
want to look it up?
yeah, it's called Radiology Partners, and it's just radiologypartners.com. There is a careers page, and we're starting to, you know, get that back populated. It's been slow because of COVID, but I definitely know quite a few positions that we will be posting very soon. So people are free to reach out to me directly and talk more about their experience.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you for that. I actually have a few people in mind to connect with you.
Okay, awesome. Would love to have them.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining us for the 2020 EmpowerMint Conference. It's been 100% a pleasure moderating this lovely panel who are enthusiastic of creating change for generations to come. So you guys are exactly the type of people that we love to highlight here. And we could not be more honored to have you both here at the conference this year.